Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's 3M Open. Gonna go through the bottom end of the Draftkings pricing and bring you 4 salary saving plays that you can get to open up some salary and perhaps get some much needed ownership leverage as well for some of those large field contests. So with a lot of salary to save, maybe a little bit of a weaker field this time around, a little bit more dumpster diving that needs to be done. So let's go out there and find ourselves a few diamonds in the rough. The top end of the 7K range is absolutely loaded with studs that I think are perfect course fits for what we have here at TPC Twin Cities. So if you haven't seen my course breakdown already, this is a course that's very similar to a PGA National where you have ticking time bombs on pretty much every single hole. And those are the lakes that you get around a TPC Twin Cities where on 15 of 18 holes, you're going to have some sort of hazard to work around. And in fact, there are over 27 water hazards on property. So some holes will have 2, even 3 water hazards to worry about. So when we're looking at some of our top end players here, that's really going to shape our modeling, right? Comp courses are tracks where you see a lot of water balls, like a PGA National, or over there at the Memorial, you get quite a few water balls. You get quite a few over there at the Travelers Championship. We're trying to find players that can strategically keep themselves in play and then from fairway in really get the job done. So if you want a full breakdown on that, check out my course breakdown or even my core plays video if you haven't already seen that. And I go through all of the key stats that you need to keep an eye on. But with that being said, Aaron Rai, he gets to the top of the heap here as one of my top modeling plays, period, on the slate, let alone down here in the 7K range. You can see in terms of total model ranking, I've got him at number 3 in the field, which means he's up there with some of those, 10K golfers when it comes to his recent form. So a few reasons why, right? We go down here to the recent form. You'll see that he's gaining across the board. That includes over a stroke per round on approach, half a stroke per round off the tee and around the green. And the putter, which is usually a bit of a weakness for Aaron Rai, has actually been a bright spot of late with the gaining 0.3 strokes per round. Now that's probably not going to hold up, right? If we zoom out a little bit, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about, right? Still doing this thing tee to green, but losing about 0.2 strokes per round with the putter. But now we get a trending Aaron Rai at a weak field, at a course that really prioritizes his best skill set, which is the driving accuracy. He is the most accurate player in the entire field when it comes to driving accuracy. He's striping it with the irons, and on bent grass, though it's not his best surface on tour, you can see he is better than that 36 round baseline, right? Where he's losing 0.2 strokes per round. So I like a lot of the course fit here. He's never played up here in Blaine, Michigan, so no real data to go off of in terms of that course fit. But based on the driving accuracy, the iron play, the fact that he's not the worst putter on the bent grass surface, makes me think that it's going to be a solid week for him. So fair enough price tag. Hopefully the ownership isn't outrageous on Aaron Rai. The recent form has been there too, right? If you take a look at his recent finishes, I know he had the missed cut last time out, but T9, T24, a few other top 10s mixed in there in the 3 or 4 starts before that. The guy is definitely playing a lot better golf now than what we saw there in the past, 3-4 months. And I think it's the right time to buy in. Next up, we've got ourselves Eric Cole, another player that I think fits the course to a T. And if you saw a few of my course comps, one of them is PGA National, right? We've already mentioned that, and he, of course, was your runner-up to Chris Kirk down there this year. He's a player that's maybe not the best off the tee, but I do have to say that he is at least about tour average when it comes to the accuracy. Definitely leaves a few yards out there in terms of the driving distance. This golf course has been won by a few bombers over the years, guys like Matthew Wolff, Cameron Champ, even Tony Finau last year, right? We'd probably classify as a bomber. He doesn't fit that narrative, but pretty much fits everything else we're looking at. On bent grass, gains about a half a stroke per round, which it's right about his 36 round baseline. So nothing too crazy there, right? Not his favorite surface on the PGA Tour, but over the last 12 measured rounds, which haven't even been that great for Eric Cole. Like he hasn't gone out there and had that top 5 finish, of late. He's losing off the tee, gaining nearly a stroke per round with the irons. This kid is a certified stud with the irons. He's been doing this the entire year at this point, and then doing his thing with the short game. He's one of the best short game players, period, on the PGA Tour. We've got to get him at a golf course where the off the tee can hold up, and that's really the only thing I'm worried about this week. The thing that makes me a little bit more willing to play Eric Cole is that he's from my neck of the woods down here, South Florida, right? He's from about 20 minutes north of me up there in Jupiter, and every single golf course down here, and I know he plays the mini tour circuit, I've played almost every golf course that they play for the mini tour down this way. Every single one of them has water or water hazards on every single hole. him going out there and having that success at PGA National was not a fluke. That is exactly how all the South Florida courses are. And the one thing I keep seeing when I look at the overhead views of this golf course is that it reminds me of South Florida, right? You have all those water hazards because it's Minnesota, right? The state of lakes up there, and it's just like what you have down here in good old West Palm Beach, Florida. So Eric Cole, I think, is going to be very comfortable out there. As long as he can avoid the water, I think he's going to have an unbelievable week. And believe it or not, could be the place that he goes out there and cracks through for that first ever victory. So unlike an Aaron Rai, Eric Cole's somebody I've actually gone out there and bet outright this week. I think he has that much upside. He's I know the modeling doesn't like him quite as much, but maybe it's the South Floridian in me that wants to be a little bit of a homer here. But this is, it's setting up for like one of those weeks. So I do think he's going to be chalky. I do think that you are going to get some pretty inflated ownership here, but it's something that I'm personally going to be willing to eat. Before we go into our last two plays, I'll remind you guys, check out my Patreon page if you want all of these spreadsheets without any sort of censoring on it. You've got my projected ownership on there, tee time waves when we get them here in the next half an hour, all my modeling, ownership, player poll as it updates throughout the week. The same thing for rounds 2 through 4 with Showdown, also our prop content that I'm posting for all 4 rounds, all for the price of $10. So if that sounds interesting, something up your alley, check out the link down below. It goes a huge way with helping me support the channel here, what I'm doing with this content, and of course, gives you all of that for your own DFS process. That includes all the recent form metrics, event history, shots gained metrics that I post, all my modeling stuff over here, have all the weightings on there for all the different stats that I'm using the whole way up the board. Make sure to check that out, guys. Our third value play, though, is going to be Justin Suh, another player that popped at the Honda Classic, right? So huge surprise there, obviously. Hasn't played that much of late. If we take a look at the recent form, you can see obviously wasn't over there for the Open or Genesis. Didn't even play the John Deere, which I thought was surprising. T78, T56 finish. So, you know, he's kind of been out of sight, out of mind. I don't think many people are going to get to Justin Suh. And if we give him his last 36-round baseline, it hasn't looked all that great either, right? He's losing from tee to green. He's gone out there and gained with the putter. But for whatever reason, this guy just makes cut after cut. He literally makes like 90% of his cuts. He's one of the more consistent players on tour when it comes to making the weekend for whatever reason. And I know, right, this isn't sexy, right? He's right around a neutral player. When the guy goes out there and he has his best stuff, he's normally a top 10 machine. Like, he doesn't just make the cut. You know, he'll either make the cut and then finish like 60th, or he'll make the cut and finish like 10th. Like, there's not many like 20th or 30th place finishes for Justin Suh. He's either like an all-in or nothing type of guy, and I love that for GPPs. So event history is going to be non-existent. Of course, has not played here before. Where's he up here? 7,600 bucks. Oh, no, he did play here. I take that back. He played here 4 years ago, apparently, back in 2019. That's a surprise. I did not know that. And he made the cut. Okay. That's great. 4 years ago, when he was nowhere near the player he is today, he's able to go out there and make the cut. You gotta like to see that. And I think he's a much better player now. He's shown an ability to hit a bunch of fairways, one of the more accurate players off the tee in this field. And then on bent grass, this is the real X factor. It's really why I'm playing him to begin with. He gains 0.91 strokes per round with the putter. Ridiculous stuff. You just don't see those sort of putting metrics very often. And at this kind of golf course and this weak of a field, that one elite skill set could be what carries you out there to that top 10, that top 20 finish. So I'd say Justin Suh, maybe not as good a play as maybe an Aaron Rai or an Eric Cole, but the X factor here is the ownership. Justin Suh is going to be a low-owned play in this range, right? He's going to be probably sub 7% owned, I would have to imagine. Ownership not very mature at this day and age, so I don't know if we want to, you know, take anything as gospel right now. But if he is indeed a relatively low-owned player in this range, that makes him an even more attractive option. So be stuck towards the top of the 7s. Again, I really liked that range, but there is one 6K option that I want to point out here, and that's Carson Young, another player that seemingly loves bent grass. He's extremely accurate off the tee. He's a top 10 driving accuracy guy in this field. And the shots gained metrics, if we zoom out enough, they look good, right? If you zoom in enough, they look pretty horrible for Carson, who's not been very good of late. But look at this, gaining with the ball striking stats. If we take a little bit more of a zoomed out approach, and then gaining a bunch with the putter. You like that? Maybe not the best around the green player, but I'm not really looking at around the green this week. It's definitely de-emphasized compared to most golf courses. And even if we do zoom in, right? we give him the shitty side of things, right? I know it doesn't look great, but he's still gaining with the putter at least, and these sort of lower tier players are gonna have a bad day from time to time. So I'm not that worried about it. I think that Carson Young, you know, if he was coming in with any sort of form, he'd probably be like $7,800 and also like 20% owned, because we've seen that before. We've seen him as mega chalk and more expensive. Now everyone wants to throw him to the side that because he's had a few bad tournaments and doesn't want to remember him going out there and smashing for that 3-4 tournament stretch, right? Like, I remember that. I remember the kind of guy that this guy's capable of being. And just like an Austin Eckroat, right? People are doing the same thing with him right now. And I know it's a completely different player in a different price range, but it's the same idea, right? Like, these guys, they don't just magically forget how to play golf. And if we're going to get them at this kind of price tag and probably at like sub 3% ownership, then I'm going to be a huge buyer on them. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for the value plays this week. Before you're hopping out of here, go ahead and smash that like button for me. And also comment down below your top play priced $8,000 and below on DraftKings that you're taking to go out there and save a little bit of salary. I appreciate all the support here as per usual. I'll see you guys for our fades and sleepers tomorrow. And of course, our weekly DFS live stream. That'll be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Bring any questions you've got to that. We'll go through the golf course, some chalk, a little weather update there before lock, and make sure we're ready to go for DFS and for props to go out there and have ourselves a profitable week. Again, guys, appreciate the support here. I'll see you guys for that live stream on Wednesday, and let's get this cash this week.